A growing list of countries are evacuating their citizens from Wuhan, the centre of China's coronavirus outbreak. Australia says it intends to quarantine its evacuees on Christmas Island, and any Britons returning from the city are to be put in quarantine for 2 weeks. Airlines are taking measures to limit the spread of the disease. This Thai Airways flight is being disinfected after returning from China. Well, British Airways has suspended all flights to China, and United Airlines and Cathay Pacific are restricting routes. The Chinese president says containing the virus remains a grim and complex task, with the number of confirmed cases in China at nearly 6,132 known deaths. Well, some US and Japanese nationals were flown out of Wuhan on Wednesday, and France, South Korea, India and Algeria are among others preparing to bring their citizens home. Australia is under fire for its plan to quarantine 600 evacuees on Christmas Island. That's 2,000 kilometres from the mainland. Shaima Khalil has more from Sydney.
The initial reaction was one of relief that people are being evacuated and brought back to Australia. But really, the choice of Christmas Island has raised eyebrows and raised a number of questions. Christmas Island has quite a tainted history, if you will. Since 2003, it's been used as a detention center, a place where asylum seekers are kept and detained. It is famous for a recently reopened particular detention center that has recently been criticized for bad conditions, for human rights violations. It's currently housing a Sri Lankan family of 4. This detention center is going to be quarantine zone, if you will. And upon hearing that, many have raised the question of why is it that 600 Australians, including 100 children that traveled with their families to celebrate the Lunar Year, instead of being brought to hospitals in mainland China, why are they being brought to Christmas Island, about 2,000 kilometers from the mainland? It's actually closer to Indonesia than it is to Australia mainland.
That's Shaima Khalil there. Let's speak to our China correspondent, Stephen McDonell, who is himself in self-isolation at home in Beijing. And Stephen, you have isolated yourself because you've recently come back from the Wuhan region. Tell me what it was like.
Yes, well, the authorities have said that anybody coming back from Hubei province should wait for 2 weeks before going back to their workplace. So that's what I'm doing, like everybody else who comes back from Hubei. And that's because the incubation period can be up to 2 weeks. People who don't have any symptoms might not be aware that they're carrying the coronavirus, and in fact they are. Now, it's interesting coming back into Beijing because even though it's normally quiet here at this time of year anyway, it's especially quiet now. You know, you move around the streets in Beijing, you barely see another person. Shops are closed. People are afraid to be coming out into the streets for fear of contracting the coronavirus. And this is happening right across China, you know, from big cities to small towns, the whole place. Normally, this is the most bustling time of year, important, the Chinese New Year, and instead it's a very quiet scene in virtually anywhere you visit right now in China.
How does the government actually police people coming back from the region? How does it make sure they do stay at home and are conscientious about it, as you clearly have been?
Well, some reporters have actually had the authorities knocking on their door and telling them they must do this, especially in Shanghai. They've taken a bit of a hard line there to make sure that nobody strays from these directives from the government. But, I mean, ultimately, I don't know how you do patrol it. How do you make sure that everybody who's been in that province doesn't, leave their home? The thing is that I think more important is they don't go back to their workplace. So, you know, enter a workplace, infect everybody. And so people are instead being told, like I am, to work from home. Schools, universities, they're not going back yet. They're pausing classes. And, you know, it's interesting looking at this problem in terms of comparing to SARS, for example. Already, the number of infections here has gone past SARS, and the SARS emergency lasted for 7 months. So people are really worried that this is an especially contagious version of a dangerous virus. However, it's important to remember that it doesn't seem to be as deadly because the death toll, we're nowhere near that 700 plus death toll for SARS. And so it could be that this is a very easy virus for people to catch, but it won't necessarily kill as many people as SARS did back in 2002.
OK, Stephen, I hope you're well. Thank you very much.